I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped onto my back porch and saw the empty clothesline swaying in the February wind. My thermal snow pants, the ones I'd hung out to air dry after yesterday's epic sledding session with my nephew, were gone, not fallen to the ground. Not blown into a neighbor's yard, just completely vanished from a fenced backyard in suburban Denver, Colorado. My name is Jason Michaels, and I'd lived in the Westridge Meadows subdivision for exactly 8 months. 8 months of what I'd initially thought would be peaceful homeownership in my modest 3-bedroom ranch. I worked as an IT consultant from home, kept to myself, maintained my property, and generally tried to be the kind of neighbor who nobody complained about. But Westridge Meadows had an HOA, and that HOA had a president named Patricia Henderson, the kind of woman who measured the height of everyone's grass with an actual ruler and sent violation notices if you were half an inch over the limit. I stood on my porch in my socks, coffee mug in hand, staring at the clothesline. The wooden pins I'd used were still there, clamped onto nothing. It was 7:30 on a Saturday morning, the temperature hovering around 20 degrees. Who steals snow pants off a clothesline? I went back inside and pulled on my boots, then walked the perimeter of my backyard. The fence was 6 feet tall, solid wood with a locking gate. The gate was still latched from the inside. That meant whoever took my pants either climbed the fence or came through my house, and since I'd been home all night, the fence seemed more likely. But why? They were just snow pants. Black, insulated, men's size large. I'd bought them on sale at REI for $40. I was about to head back inside when I heard the unmistakable click of high heels on pavement. Patricia Henderson appeared at my side gate, her blonde hair sprayed into submission despite the wind, wearing a purple pantsuit that looked wildly inappropriate for a Saturday morning in winter. She was in her late 40s, thin to the point of being gaunt, with a permanent expression that suggested she just smelled something unpleasant. "Good morning, Jason," she called out, her voice carrying that artificial sweetness that made my teeth hurt. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Morning, Patricia," I said, walking over to the gate. "Actually, something weird just happened. Someone took my snow pants off my clothesline." Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Your clothesline." "Jason, you're aware that outdoor clotheslines are strictly prohibited according to Section 4.7 of our HOA bylaws, aren't you?" I felt my jaw tighten. "I hung them on my back porch clothesline, in my fenced backyard, private property." The bylaws clearly state that clotheslines are not permitted anywhere on the property that might be visible from neighboring homes or common areas. Mrs. Chen next door has a 2-story home. She could potentially see into your yard. "Patricia, someone stole my snow pants." "Well, if you hadn't violated HOA regulations by hanging them outside, they wouldn't have been available to steal, would they?" She pulled out her phone and tapped at the screen. "I'm documenting this violation. You'll receive a formal notice within 48 hours. First violation is a warning, second is a $50 fine." She turned to leave, and that's when I saw them. My snow pants, stretched across Patricia Henderson's middle-aged body like a sausage casing about to burst. The black insulated fabric was straining at every seam, the waistband sitting well below where it should, the legs riding up to show her bony ankles above a pair of designer boots. She was wearing my snow pants, and they were at least 3 sizes too small for her. "Patricia," I said, my voice carefully controlled, "those are my snow pants." She stopped walking but didn't turn around. "I have no idea what you're talking about. The pants you're wearing right now, those are the ones that were on my clothesline." I can see the REI tag still attached to the back pocket. She whirled around, her face flushing red. "These are mine. I bought them last week. They have a coffee stain on the left knee from when I spilled my thermos on Monday, right there," I pointed. Patricia looked down at the brown stain, barely visible against the black fabric. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. "This is harassment. I'm the president of this HOA, and I will not be accused of theft by a resident who can't even follow basic community guidelines. You climbed my fence and stole my pants off my clothesline, I said, amazement creeping into my voice. Why would you do that? I did no such thing. These pants are mine. If you continue to harass me, I'll have no choice but to call the police. Great idea, I said, pulling out my phone. Let's call them together. I'm sure they'd be interested in hearing about this. Patricia's face went from red to purple. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I started dialing 911. Wait, she said sharply. Just wait. Can we talk about this like reasonable adults? I lowered my phone. I'm listening. She glanced around as if checking for witnesses, then stepped closer to the gate. The pants made a concerning stretching sound. I'll return your pants, but you need to understand something. I'm trying to help you. Help me by stealing my clothes. I was conducting an inspection. Walking through the neighborhood checking for violations. I saw your pants hanging in clear view, which is a violation. I confiscated them as evidence. Evidence of what? Laundry. Evidence of your disregard for community standards. Do you have any idea how hard I work to maintain property values in this neighborhood? Every violation chips away at what we've built here. When someone like you moves in and immediately starts breaking rules, I hung pants in my own backyard. You violated the bylaws, which you agreed to follow when you purchased your home. She crossed her arms, and the pants zipper made an ominous creaking sound. However, since this is your first major infraction, I'm willing to be lenient. Give me your word that you'll never use a clothesline again, and I'll consider this matter closed. You're still wearing my pants. I'll return them once I get home and change. Why did you put them on? The question hung in the cold air. Patricia's face went through several expressions before settling on defensive anger. My car broke down 2 blocks from here. I was freezing. I saw the pants and thought they were abandoned. It was an honest mistake. In my fenced backyard, the gate was open. No, it wasn't. I checked. We stared at each other. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Patricia's phone buzzed and she glanced at it, her expression shifting to something almost like panic. I have to go, she said abruptly. HOA meeting. I'll drop the pants off later today. No, I said. You'll give them to me now, or I'm calling the police. I'm not taking my pants off in your driveway. Then go home and change, and I'll wait here. I told you I have a meeting. Patricia, you stole my property. You're wearing stolen property right now. Either you return it immediately, or this becomes a police matter. Her jaw clenched so hard I could hear her teeth grinding. Fine. Wait here. She stalked off down the driveway, the 2 small pants making her walk like a penguin. I watched her disappear around the corner of my house, heading toward the street. I waited 5 minutes, then 10. At 15 minutes, I realized she wasn't coming back. I walked around to the front of my house just in time to see Patricia's silver Lexus pulling away from the curb 3 houses down. She was still wearing my pants. For a moment, I just stood there in disbelief. An HOA president had just stolen my snow pants, put them on despite them being several sizes too small, and then fled the scene rather than return them. It was so absurd that I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I went inside and called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher sounded bored until I explained that the thief was currently wearing the stolen items and was the president of my homeowners association. Then, she sounded interested. She took my information and said an officer would be by within the hour to take a statement. Officer Chen arrived 45 minutes later. He was in his 30s, stocky, with an expression that suggested he'd seen everything. I explained the situation while he took notes. When I got to the part about Patricia wearing the pants despite them being too small, his poker face cracked slightly. "And you're certain they're your pants?" he asked. "Positive. They have a specific coffee stain and I could see the REI tag. Plus, she admitted they were hanging in my yard before claiming she thought they were abandoned. In your fenced backyard, exactly." Officer Chen flipped his notebook closed. "I'll need to speak with Miss Henderson. Do you have her address?" I pulled up the HOA directory on my phone and gave him Patricia's address, just 4 streets over. He thanked me and said he'd be in touch. I watched his patrol car drive away and wondered what Patricia would do when the police showed up at her door. I found out 3 hours later when my doorbell rang. It wasn't the police. It was Dennis Walsh, a retired accountant who served as the HOA treasurer and was generally considered the reasonable member of the board. He was holding a plastic bag. "Jason," he said, looking deeply uncomfortable. "I'm here to return your property."